Okay, the first component of emotional intelligence we're going to talk about is self-awareness. And there's really three components within that. The emotional self-awareness, which is being able to recognize your emotions. There's accurate self-assessment, knowing your own strengths and limitations, and self-confidence, a strong sense of one's self-worth and capabilities. Do you find if you or others don't have these things that it impacts the successful collaboration and operation of a classroom? Mm-hmm. Any of you?
Can somebody give an example of a time maybe where lack of self-awareness? Oh, Sharia, here we go.
No, not her, but
No.
we're in one right now.
Oh, you are in one.
Oh, we
Can
are
you
in one right now.
Describe what impact that's had?
With no names?
With no
Yes.
names.
In my team, there is a situation now where we're trying to guide, I should say, guide a person into being aware of her actions and non-actions, and it's not. She's still not aware of them. It's hard to see that she's trying to be aware of them, but it's.
But when you talk to her about it, you're met with indifference.
Yes.
She doesn't recognize any of of how the behavior is impacting the team.
Well, that's part of the limbic brain kicking in.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. And
it's
it's
very
causing her
helping.
to be frightened.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's causing her to be frightened.
and to
flee.
flee, and she's fleeing.
And that
And
shows up in indifference.
Yes.
Yes.
And because of that, she is unable to receive openly the message, even though the messaging is positive. She just shuts it out.
Right.
And
What's
it's-
that done to the team?
It's
It's
we've regressed as in collaborating. We definitely have regressed in collaborating. Is you don't have that confidence in your team that you would want. You can't operate.
efficiently.
You can't operate efficiently. It's causing some team members to operate independently, which
Oh,
has been
that's
good.
interesting.
And the communication, I'm sure, has been
Yes.
it's gone down.
It's strained and
It's strained,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah, and
They
it's been
show.
very hurtful
Right.
to the team, and we're really trying to rebuild these relationships and get back to where we are. But it's hard with a team member learning.
But the
I
good,
think
I
on the
have
time
to
limits.
I have to give you a lot of credit, though, that your team is aware that the lack of self-awareness and really the self-assessment is impacting the team, and you're not working around it, which is what some teams have done in the
What do you mean
past.
working around it?
They're not.
Meaning they isolate the
moving
person.
They're acknowledging it, is what
Yes.
you're saying. They're
Yes.
taking it on.
Yes.
And
But for
sometimes
how
they
long
acknowledge
it
it
can
and then
be in zero? I mean, somebody will burst anyway, right?
it comes out of
Yes.
anger.
It comes out in anger, which that has occurred.
So that's a good question. How
what
long do you
point?
give it? At what point do you
Right.
say this is unsustainable?
Well, I would say in the last month,
Mm-hmm.
there has been some real specific expectations put around this, and the person that is having the tough time with the self-awareness has had ample opportunities to prove that she's willing and able to move forward even despite the uncertainty, and instead of doing that, she's retreated. And so at that point, she was given an option to either stay and become strong with us, or she may decide we'll transition her out.
And what was the decision?
The decision is that she wants to
Well,
try.
I mean, the specific decision, I think, is that
She's
chose
no longer
not to
She chose not
engage
to.
in this.
She chose not to
couldn't,
engage.
maybe.
No.
Or-
But I can tell you from personal experience is one time in my life I was in a job, a very high level job, that wasn't the right job for me. And you can be you're not in it. I needed the money, right? And so you place yourself in situations that don't honor yourself.
Exactly.
And that can be part
Mm-hmm.
because you have to have money. And
But
I'm
it-
sure in her case,
Of course.
you're compromising who you are.
But that goes back to self-awareness, and that was one of the things in my discussions with her was about how she needed to honor herself, and
Right.
is this truly possible for her to achieve?
So
Right.
Paula, let me ask you a question. How long how long did you allow yourself to be in that situation? What did it do
That
to
was
you?
my question.
Yeah.
How long
What
this
did it do to
situation
you?
can,
I mean, what happened is I was a square peg in a round hole, and I wasn't effective. What I wanted the objectives of the position to be were different than what my boss did. And so we decided to part ways, and that's actually how I ended up at Suzuki. I'm a big believer that if you do the right things, you get to the right place.
Exactly.
And the process that organization had, which is Paul is a square peg in a round hole, and I was aware I was that, and will eventually get you to the right place. And what you have to do is not be resentful during that process.
Exactly.
But how did that, it shaped the way you perceive yourself, and it shaped the way you deal with situations going forward. That's what I was asking. What insight did that give you?
It's Suzuki. The insight it gave me is when I see people who are really good, who are not performing to their potential, I think we have a square peg in a round hole. Now it could be other things, but when you work through all the other things, their emotional intelligence, if they're not honoring themselves, you can't fake it.
Exactly.
You cannot fake it, and that can really undermine a team if you don't address that fundamental.
Exactly, and that's where we've been
And I think
at. That's where we're at.
Exactly. With the,
But it's getting to that place.
Deborah, I can see you have a thought.
I have a thought. I think, yes, it helps the team to self-awareness, but my thought is so often the person that is that square peg and doesn't fit in our round hole is made to feel made to feel badly about their ability and their talent. Even though we say it's okay, it's not just a good fit. My worry is that we have a really high bar, of course we do, but how can we help the teacher recognize that maybe this isn't the right time? Maybe it isn't the right place. Maybe it's a combination of the two. It doesn't matter. It's not that they're not a good teacher, not a good person, not able to do this. They just can't do it in this setting.
Well, I think we
That's-
need.
right.
It's the respect of
I
that
think
person.
sometimes we might do damage if we don't make that very clear to the person as we're talking to them.
I agree.
But the person won't receive it if they're not practicing self-awareness. Like that's the other side of it is a lot of people who are those square pegs in the round holes, they're not realizing that that's what they are. They're not realizing that they're trying to force it, that it's just not a good fit. And so even though you can be trying to encourage them and seeing that this is not a good fit, but still trying to be encouraging, if they're not ready to receive that, then it still won't make any sense. It'll just go one ear and out the other, and it doesn't matter if you're offering those kind words.
Have you had a situation like that within a team you've been in, or have you witnessed that in another team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't give, maybe I'm just not aware of it, but,
You may not have been in the situation yet
yeah.
from the seat you're in. Okay.
I think one of the things you could do is help that person come to that self-awareness by asking questions.
Exactly.
Why do you want to stay here? You know, you are really struggling. Is
But
this
if you
something
keep
that
in
you
mind a
want?
lot,
That's-
well, why do people want to stay here sometimes?
It's a
is that
job.
they
It's the
have
money.
to have the
They have to
money.
have it. Exactly.
And you have to be aware that that's a strong motivator, which is understandable.
Of course.
You know, one of the things you did early on, Paula, that I went, this is really civilized, is you said, let's work out a transition plan for you. There was a teacher who was struggling, and I went, a transition plan, brilliant. Because that puts it, we know, but let's work out a solution that benefits you and benefits the school. Let's do this together.
Exactly.
That was really powerful, excuse me, for me to hear, because I had never thought of that before.
I think it's brilliant, and it really helps that person preserve their self-dignity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
And you're
and
in this
that's-
together, and you're gonna find the answer together.
Exactly. And in the situation that we're in right now, that's what we're doing.
That's what you're doing. Okay, thank you.